Welcome back to PoPolitickin.com, your home for self-help meets hip-hop. Right now, we're live on YouTube. Check me out on Spotify, Apple Podcasts. 1212, I'm the place to be with Nate, KnewBalance, Whitsell. How you doing, bro?
I'm great. Yourself?
I'm fantastic.
Yeah,
Why they call you? Why you go by KnewBalance?
Okay, so I was looking for, like my rap name, right? I didn't have necessarily like an older MC that was like, handing it down to me. And so, I went through this, I was in this space where I thought I kind of like knew what I believed, and I thought I knew who I was. And when a shift happened, it made me realize like I thought that I knew balance, but I need new balance. And I also like the shoes, so that helped, right? Like that's my favorite shoes are the 576s. So like it all kind of came together, in that name, obviously with the K on the front, like new balance. And that's how it all came to be back in like probably 09.
Yeah, I think I need to. That's all I used to wear for a minute because I like Ghostface, and Ghostface rap about New Balance. So all I used to wear for a minute was New Balance. I need to buy some. I might go online and see if they got some sales right now. Get some.
Yeah, they always do. Their website, they always got some on sale.
So what's your hometown?
Well, I'm pretty much, from San Diego. I was born in Santa Ana. Parents divorced when I was 1. Mom moved down to San Diego, and this is kind of where roots went down. So San Diego is essentially my hometown.
Good. And then what's your background with hip hop?
So so growing up in San Diego, I bounced around. We bounced around a lot until I was about in second grade, 8 years old, and we moved to Scripps Ranch, and we were in like a new build. And in the house, they had this like an intercom. And, I was running through the house and I was putting on my music on the intercom. I remember going through the hall and Me, Myself, and I came on. So in 1989, so about a year after I moved to Scripps. And I remember just staring at like this kind of manila plastic against the white wall, right, with these silver knobs, and Me, Myself, and I coming out of the speaker. And then I just went back to being a kid, 9 years old. But that moment changed. Music became mine, right? I used to listen to my parents' music. Lionel Richie was big for me and my mom. And so, I went from, that was that shift where like hip hop captivated me and became like my music, and no longer, did my parents tell me what was good music. I knew now like what good music was. So
De La Soul, right?
That's correct. Yeah.
Right. So then how did you, when I met you, how would you describe yourself? I know you're a writer, but then I saw you do a couple freestyles. So
yeah,
what you doing? How would you describe yourself to the people?
Man, the reality is I'm a fan of hip hop, and interestingly, Kurt Cobain, he said that every real like true fan of music would partake, would try to create music. And so I started as a fan. I'm just a fan. Like that's what I am. But I love it so much that I wanted to learn how you could chop up a sample, and then how you could put your vocals over the top of it, record it, mix it. I wanted to break dance back when Breakin' and Breakin' 2 came out when I was a kid. I used to try to break like in literally when my floor was linoleum, my parents' house. And so like, but I couldn't do that very well. And I didn't stick with it, but like I've tried my hand at kind of all the elements. And I just love the art and culture so much that it just comes out of me. And so I started writing raps in like 01 after kind of being more into poetry, and like in the, who's that? I just went blank. Saul Williams kind of inspired me right before then when he came out with that MTV collaboration, the She Book. I don't know if you remember that. It was like the square root sign, HE, So that really shifted my relationship with words, and I wanted to write then. And then a friend introduced me to some spoken word stuff that kind of pulled me even more in a live setting. And then I just started writing raps. And when I graduated college in 2007, I bought an MPC and then started making beats and rapping over my own beats.
So did you put out any projects yet?
I've put out a few. I go by the Peacemakers when I'm with my brother-in-law. His name's Antonio. Pause One, P-A-Z, like peace one, not to be confused with Pause One, who is an absolute barbarian as well, up from, I want to say from the Western LA, Southwestern LA area. And so when we're together, we go by the Peacemakers, P-I-E-C-E makers. And we've put out 2 projects, the Golden Era mixtape back in like 2010. And then in 13, we put out an EP. And we did like a fun EP release in 2013, I believe it was. And then individually, I put out my first like full length project or whatever as KnewBalance back in 2011 when my son was born. And so it's been a minute. I've been putting out singles and just little stuff here and there. But again, it's the music for me is it's just something that comes out of me. You know what I mean? It's not so much, I'm not marketing myself, and you know what I mean? It's just, I create the art that hits me. And if it's good, it's good. If it's not, whatever, it's out there, So yeah, that's where I'm at. And I have a project being mixed by Billy No Jokes right now, from up in North County. I put it out on SoundCloud just to see what people thought of it. It's called Songs for Lovers Who Dance Alone. And it's just really me processing being a kid and really learning about sex, like, and relationships all through hip hop, movies, and R&B music. I grew up in the 80s and 90s, and those are the things that kind of raised me. While my parents were up watching TV, I'm down with my radio and I'm daydreaming about, what I'm going to say to her, and literally like listening to Jodeci, like, come and talk to me. Like, I'm really like, I guess that's how you do it. So you walk up to her and you go, come and talk to, and so this project is me kind of wrestling with the pain we all kind of carry with us, being taught that way without a mentor, or at least those of us who didn't have necessarily like our dads didn't do it, moms didn't do it. And so I was just fumbling around and was an idiot in high school, and just processing through those emotions, and playing with that concept. So.
Yeah, I would say I know you as a journalist too, because I see you do a lot of interviews, and that's why I didn't know about all the rap part. I thought you did interviews.
Yeah. So the interviews came about so I've been a teacher, high school English teacher, for about 15 years now. And I've always wanted out, if that makes sense. Like, I've always wanted to do something else. And I don't know where that comes from, but I got an interview at the San Diego Union Tribune, and I was the wrong guy for the job. It was a sales job, but he walked me through the newsroom where everybody's creating their articles. And when that happened, something shifted in me. I'm like, no, I need to write. And so I went to the first hip hop show I could. Luckily, it was a mod. Back in the day when I was young, I'm not a kid anymore, when he was releasing his the Death of Me album independently on We Clap. And Kid Riz was throwing his show called The Lyrical Schoolyard at Boris Crossing up in Carlsbad. And so I went up there and I reviewed the show, and that's where I met Kali. That's where I got introduced to Blame One. I got introduced to one of the visionaries. I just went blank, Danu. So really, like, everybody that I first interviewed and talked to, and that night it happened. And now me and Kali work together, through SD State of Mind and Hip Hop Weds. And so it's just been a really cool full circle decade, So yeah, about 10 years ago now, I started writing.
And were you doing like a website? Like, what was you doing? It was something you was doing, either a website or your Instagram page, where you was like going to all these shows.
Yeah. I started way back in 2011, I started as Soul Anchor Collective. And that was like my website, soulanchorcollective.com. And then I transitioned when I moved back to San Diego, because as Soul Anchor, I was up in Long Beach and down in San Diego, because I started teaching up in Long Beach. And when I moved back down to San Diego in 2014, I shifted to SD Loves Hip Hop, and really just wanted to like narrow the focus just on San Diego music. And that's when we met. I was doing SD Loves Hip Hop, interviewing, doing West Coast Wednesday interviews, and interviewing the headliners for Kali's show at his hip hop house shows on that Wednesday of the month. And so that's how he and I started overlapping and working together. And then I was working with the good people over at Platform Collection. Shout out to Kill C Ray and his whole team. And I was going to transition out of SD Loves Hip Hop, but just because of family and like my 2 sons, my wife, things needed more attention and energy at home. And so I transitioned out of kind of doing everything in about 2018, and just was, again, just a fan, not even contributing in any way, just totally a fan at that point. And then during the pandemic, Kali said, hey, let's just do some online interview stuff so we can keep San Diego, kind of like learning about itself and in the discussion while we're all locked down. And so I started writing again with Hip Hop Weds at that point.
Yeah, because I don't know. I think, my bad. So, like, it's a lot of work sometimes. Like, I know with me, it's like, so like most of the time during the week, I'm doing all these interviews, but then people on the weekends, they want you to go see them and all this shit. I'm like,
yeah.
I'm like, I gotta rest, man. And I gotta
exactly
do all this shit. I'm getting old. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, you have such a dope setup too, man. You pump out so much content because of how organized you are, and I didn't have that, so I was just a hot mess going in every direction, But I like how you're organized and how it just lets you keep pushing out material where I felt like I was scrambling, And I'm sure at the beginning you felt like that too.
Yeah, that's what's up. So I'll say, so what you got going on right now?
So SD State of Mind, is like the overarching kind of like umbrella over Hip Hop Weds. And so I write, do the interviews for Hip Hop Weds. We're transitioning to video interviews as opposed to written interviews, just to add another layer to them and be in person now that we're back, live with people. And so that's coming or happening. And then I'm also trying to write an article a month at least just for SD State of Mind, just a different approach where people have to sit and take an hour or 30 minutes, 20 minutes and actually read and kind of chew on like something a little bit deeper. Not that the interviews don't go deep, but where you just start sitting and actually read words. And then we also have Serial Killers, where this is a show that I created and Kali's the host. It's under the SD State of Mind banner. It's really exciting. We got a lot of guests lined up. We've filmed our actual first real episode, and it'll go live probably later in the fall. And it's really exciting, man. So Serial Killers, basically Kali and our guests, they eat a bowl of cereal, smoke some classics. I'm not sure if anyone in your audience is familiar with Classics, but super dope company from right here in San Diego. If you're part of, if you partake in cannabis, they just started making vape cartridges. It's rosin. It's like the healthiest like extraction process, no solvents, super dope. And so we're partnered with them to do the show right now. And it's good. It's real good. So I know we just did Dre Cat and Cali the Dreamer, and they are two of the most proficient marijuana smokers in the city. And so really exciting to get that, under our belt. And we're just going to do the first season and then we'll start releasing them.
Yeah, I remember I want to ask you about something I saw you post a while ago.
Yeah.
I ain't never heard nobody say nothing like that before, because I saw you you posted something like you chose to live in the streets for a year or something like that.
Yeah. So this is back in like 2001. I was reading a book. Like I said, I thought I knew balance and I was looking for New Balance. And so I was reading a book called, what was it called? Something Wild. It was like kind of like a Christian cult classic at the time, if you will. And I needed to get in the woods or something, but I couldn't get out of the city. And so I just sold everything. Crazy story. I was driving home from work down Miramar Road, and third day after I had told my mom I'm gonna go live on the streets, which she didn't like, a car ran in the back of my Jeep, totaled it, paid it all off. And I was, I had nothing attaching me to anything. And so, I just bought a bunch of camping gear and I went and lived, just all around. Like I slept sometimes up by the soccer fields that used to be, it's the YMCA soccer fields in La Jolla by UCSD. I stayed in Balboa Park. And I would go meet up with friends. I would help out like with our church, like over off Governor. Like I just was kind of everywhere. And long story short, it was cut short by just my like solitude time by myself. It was just time to come back for whatever reason. I just kind of flowed with it. And so I only did 2 weeks. So it wasn't like super crazy or anything, but it was I have a lot of memories that I still carry with me. And probably the biggest, like, if it's interesting, the biggest thing I take away from it is life is really easy when you have no responsibilities. It's really easy when life is simple to be a good person, to do the things that are important to you. But it's really the challenge in life, right, is to remain functional and busy, not too busy, but, a contributing member of whatever group you're a part of. And still be that person who makes sure that they include the things that matter to them. It was really easy to live such a good life for those 2 weeks because I had no responsibilities.
Yeah, I mean, like sometimes, like when I walk around the beach, and then I see like a homeless person, but I be like, man, they kind of got to, like, you homeless and you on the beach, like, are you really homeless? Like, you on the beach?
Yeah,
like,
right.
And then, like you said, hey, you ain't got no responsibilities, and like, shit.
Yeah.
We the ones thinking, like, looking down on them, but shit, they probably feel like the king.
Yeah. And there are some, right, that do it by choice and enjoy it.
Oh, I guess I had thought you did it longer than 2 weeks. I thought you did it for a year.
That was my goal, actually. And then I cut down to 2 months, and then I was out. Okay, here, it's hyper Christian stuff. I don't know, what your relationship with religion is, but back then I was hyper Christian, and I was reading, and in Romans it talks about obeying the laws of the land, and somebody hit me with, well, it's illegal to be homeless technically, and so I was just like, well, I can't really argue that, and I should have just kept following my heart, but I definitely.
Why is it illegal to be homeless?
Yeah, why is it? I don't know, but in San Diego County, right, and in most counties, honestly, it's technically illegal to just sleep on the street, right? And it's a silly thing, right? You're giving tickets to people, in some cases, who have no resources to pay it's a bonkers idea that it's illegal to be homeless, but technically it is. And so, because of where I was spiritually at the time, I felt it was my duty to just obey, kind of blindly. And so I'm bummed that I did, but, I met my wife during that time. I met my rap partner, right? Antonio, one half of the Peacemakers or whatever, all during this time. I was homeless, like when my wife met me, literally. And she saw me the first time she saw me, she was like, I want to marry that dude. So, that's a fun story, fun part of life.
Yeah, we actually had this, I guess it was like a mile strip in Oceanside.
Yeah.
Like, there was this guy, he made like a little community, and it was like real neat, no drugs, nothing. But
yeah.
Man, Oceanside, like what they did, they just like cleared it out. Then they put like rocks where people can't sleep in it no more.
Yeah.
I was like, damn.
Dirty. It sucks, right? Like, I mean, it's the system really not wanting people to function outside the system, right? Is what it really comes down to. It's if people find a way to find joy that's much more stripped down, there's no property taxes, there's no, right? That the system doesn't like that. And so, they find ways to make you uncomfortable, I guess, to fit in the mold or whatever.
All right. So what else is going on with you right now?
Man, so like I said, Billy No Jokes is mixing this project, and I'm working on a project with DJ Root right now. Planning all the serial killers guests we got up with SD State of Mind. What else am I working on right now? I'm always writing, and I want to continue to contribute like that written piece because I think it's so important. Jay-Z does this really interesting interview about how people used to get, right, the critics used to get the music and sit with it for a time and then share it with the people, and people would be excited to get that new Source magazine or XXL or whatever magazine you went to, right? And I still am working at making sure that we have that written piece here in San Diego where people can chew on the words and then look forward to whatever from whatever artist or whatnot. So I'm always going to be, writing. And again, it'll be published at SD State of Mind. We're working on the website right now where you can buy SD State of Mind mugs and merch and, all that good stuff. And then that will also house all the written, all the interviews and all the kind of that'll be the hub. So working on the website, just always working on something, tweaking something.
Yeah, I would say, I think like, speaking of reviews, I always look at people funny when like, say the album comes out Monday and you on Monday. Like, how the hell you say, like, it's no, like, to me, I feel like sometimes you need to listen to the music a few times, and then you
Oh
can
yeah.
listen to in different settings to get the full gist of it.
Yep.
If you listen to that song, if you listen to the album in one play and you writing a review, like hell no,
No,
it's like
no. That's ridiculous, right? And in that interview, Jay-Z was saying the same thing, right? It's garbage, then it's drivel. But the problem with our society, right, like at this moment is like everybody wants to be first to the press. Everyone wants to be the first one to break a story. Everyone wants the first. And I'm so not interested in that. You know, I know it's important to be relevant and on time, but I would much rather saturate myself in an article. You know, I do press releases for a lot of the local artists here in San Diego, and so that they can send them out to the blogs and things like that. And I need the project way in advance, and I need to just sit and like, I'll run with it, I'll drive with it. There's like a nighttime drive with the windows down, like the wind blowing through the car. Like you need all those, like you said, different contexts to listen to the music, because it's gonna, each one fits differently in those different contexts. And you're like, oh, this is running music or your exercise music or whatever. Oh no, this is like just cruising along the beach, right? Sunset Cliffs is where I live, this area. Like that's what this is, you know, most at home in. Or so I'm with you. You have to give something at least 5 listens, I think, before you can really intelligently, you know, speak about the nuances and the little nooks and crannies, the phrase that just sits uncomfortably, or you know. So I'm with you.
And then with the SD Loves Hip Hop, so who are some of the your favorite artists that you discovered during that time?
Yeah, man, Ryan Anthony was probably the one that captivated me the most, like that I was like, oh snap, like I just found gold, you know what I mean? Like, and I didn't know who was listening to him. I had just gotten back to San Diego. I was riding my bike from my mother-in-law's house to a bicycle shop that I was working at the time. I took a year off of teaching, and I was just cruising, you know, it was like about 10 miles each way. And so I would just sit with an album. And so that first Barely See the Beach had just come out right around the time I was doing this. And I was just like, okay, hands down. And I'm not as into the Southeast sound. It's just not the niche I find myself in, but he absolutely just captivated me, and I became an instant fan. And around that same time, actually, Choosy had just dropped Left Field, and he had been, you know, Choosy, you familiar?
Uh-huh.
Oh man, I'll send you some stuff. But yeah, Choosy, he used to go by Makeshift, and I discovered him as Makeshift up in Long Beach in 2008. You know, gave me one of his CDs. He was opening for Blue and Exile up there, and I became a fan. So I watched him, I followed him, I interviewed him as actually a Soul Anchor Collective, and he was teasing, and he dropped Left Field, which is a phenomenal album that you can get on SoundCloud at the Dirty Science SoundCloud. And that made me even more solidified my fandom, if you will. And so Choosy, definitely Blame One. Like I said, Kali, like our connection came through, you know, my early writing. You know, getting to interview, I interviewed Nikki and the Mongoloid was my very first interview. And DJ Artistic, actually, I need to go back a little bit. In that same time that I did Soul Anchor Collective back in like 2011, I was also doing interviews for Good Vibe San Diego, Good Vibe SD for DJ Artistic. And that's when I discovered one of my favorites too is Teddy Benson. He had me interview Teddy Benson, and I love that dude. And we've gone for runs along the beach now, and you know, like we've sat and smoked together and just like waxed poetic, you know, argued about reality and determinism and stuff. So, you know, Teddy Benson's definitely one of my favorite discoveries during that season. Mr. Heck, if you're familiar with the DJ, Mr. Heck, you know, I got to interview him. I got to interview Newmark, you know, and I had heard of J5, you know, Jurassic 5, but to interview Newmark was an interesting, you know, to get like an inside track on them, because I've been a fan of them in the 2000s when they were kind of really booming, you know. What else? And just discovering like Boogie is my favorite find. It was during the SD Loves Hip Hop era, and Boogie is just my favorite artist currently, you know, like heavy in the game, if you will. If you're familiar with Westside Boogie, he put the Westside on like officially now, so I got to call him Westside Boogie. But you know, I've been following that dude since about 2014, and just been loving his journey. So that's probably like my favorite one, and then all the SD artists, of course. You know, I'm a fan of our city and its whole scene, and I try to stay in touch. You know, Teddy Benson keeps me tapped in with, you know, the Hardinis, with my brain's going blank right now, but so each artist, you know, that I just named kind of keeps me tapped in. Of course, 18 Scales is a huge one. Saw Rick, you know, rapping at kicking people's butts in the battle at BattleBot, you know, at the Casbah. You know, Artistic invited me out to that, and then I got to know Root, and through those, really got to know Rick. And then he dropped with Ralph Quasar, who used to be 18 Cents, right? As 18 Scales, they dropped the Leave It All Behind EP, and that hooked me. And I actually wrote a review of it, interviewed them, and I became an instant fan of them as well. So yeah, there's so much good music in our city, and I just feel so lucky to have written about a lot of it, and just to be able to know about, you know, what's going on and enjoying it. So it's been quite a journey.
Yeah, and it was when you was talking about Southeast hip hop. I don't think a lot of people know about that. It's like its own genre, the Southeast. Like that.
It's totally.
I like that. That's the wrong kind, and Mitchie Flick, and even more rappers. But that's like, yeah, it's like that gangster rap right there.
Yeah,
people know about. They just know about. They think like beach and all that.
And I think it's important. And you know, my goal was always to make sure that I'm pulling. You know, I interviewed Don Elway as well, and I'm always trying to make sure that I'm pulling on each direction: North County, right, South Bay, Southeast. You know, and you definitely want to touch on, you know, like the Chicano rap, and that more, like you said, gangster rap, and that backpack rap, and then like that weird scientific rap, right? Orko Elohim and Masters of the Universe, Odessa Kane, very political rap. Like we have it all. You know, we have every subgenre of hip hop in our city, and it's well represented. You know, there's people doing it at a high level. And you just have to know where to look, you know, so definitely. But it all really started in Southeast, right? Like with the Gangsta Earns and you know, like that early gangster rap is kind of what, I don't know, really put San Diego on the map. You know, I know there's also Legion of Doom. And so there's so much history here. And so I think, yeah, Southeast is one of the most important avenues to be tapped into and to know about if you care about the history and legacy of San Diego hip hop. Yeah.
What's your shirt say?
So this says, speaking of, right, the shirt says nerdy groovy gangsta, yes indeed. And this is from Dago Fats, who is in fact a nerdy groovy gangsta, yes indeed, right? He's from Southeast. And I think I want to say Bayview Apartments, if you're familiar. I used to teach at Knox, and so like that means a lot to me, because Knox Middle School, which used to be Knox Elementary, which is where Mitchie Slick went to elementary school, I taught there for a few years. So I love when all the pieces come together, you know. So to be able to wear this shirt, and this line stood out to me when I interviewed Dago Fats, and because I brought this line up, he's like, you know what, that is kind of a tagline for him in a lot of ways. And so he created this shirt, and I got the first one. He came and he drove over and, you know, gave it to me, and we had a good conversation. And so I love when like me being a teacher, hip hop, and then relationships all kind of like interweave like that. I got to interview YG back in 2012 and Mustard in YG's house under the Hollywood Hill sign. And I was sitting on a futon doing the interview, and I asked him if he had known one of my former students, because I taught in Compton, and they happen to be from the same hood. And he's like, shut up, Buddha sleeps on that futon. So for me, it's my former student was one, you know, and kind of like his, you know, entourage. He had a, you know, I think he was a guard. He had his guard card. And so, and they, you know, they knew each other from the past. And so he brought, you know, his people in. And so we're talking after the interview, and it turns out one of my former students slept on the futon I did the interview from, like nightly. Like that was his home, you know? And so I love that, you know, so to know that Dago Fats was making music across the street while I was teaching, you know, English to 6th, 7th, and 8th graders, like, I don't know, that's magical to me.
You teach right now?
Yeah, I teach at Garfield downtown. So I'm in high school now. Middle school is just too much for me. That's not my gig. I'll take a job when there's a job, right? And that's why, the 2 times I've taught middle school, that's what was open. But as soon as I could get a high school gig, I did. And so, yeah, I'm at Garfield. We're right across the street from City College, and we're one of the continuation schools in San Diego Unified.
So is it open right now, or is it still virtual and everything?
We were virtual all the way up until summer school. We were actually the only school, I think, that stayed that way because of our unique situation with our students. Now we're going back officially in the fall. So I'm both nervous and excited, and we'll just see how it goes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure. Anything else you want to talk about?
Man, that's what's on my head. I'm kind of always trying to like think about what I would ask if I were in your shoes, right? And so we kind of touched on everything that's been on my mind, and what I'm working on, and but we just have such a beautiful city, and San Diego's hip hop is so alive and well. One thing I didn't mention that I think is a good like exclamation point is I do a radio show on KKSM AM 1320, Palomar College Radio. You can stream it, palomarcollegeradio.com, on the first Wednesday of every month. And it's usually going to be San Diego only. I'll blend, San Diego and other if it makes sense. But I try to just stick to San Diego hip hop. And we just had Kali on this month, on the 2nd or 7th of this month. And he featured a bunch of the songs from the SD State of Mind Dago Renaissance album. We just had the release party at the Casbah a few days ago, last Wednesday. And so I had him on as a guest, and he shared some of the songs and talked about how he reached out to the artists and things like that. So I want to do some interviews. I want to do some album releases like through the radio show. There's this kid named Marcus Ty. I don't know if have you heard of Marcus Ty? Yeah, he's like phenomenal music. And Kazi, if you've heard of Kazi, Kzie. These 2 artists I'd really like on their next projects to have them on and let them kind of like share the album, with my listeners or our listeners. So SD State of Mind Radio is where you can find that on Instagram to stay tapped into that. So that's probably the last thing I'd want to talk about is the radio show.
Yeah, that's what I said. It's like so many artists, man. It's like shit. Like you think you know a lot, but you don't.
You don't. Where you can send all of your viewers to get the real history is DJ Informer Bernie down at Beatbox Records. Bernie at Beatbox Records is the most encyclopedic mind I know, and he knows like all of San Diego's rap history, all of San Diego's musical history, because he owns a record shop, right? He's well versed in every genre. But Beatbox Records, if you want to know anything about what's going on in San Diego, and like you said, Po, if you think you know anything about music or hip hop in San Diego, just one of the drops in the bucket.
What's his name?
His name is DJ Inform. His just name is Bernie. He's the owner and operator of Beatbox.
I think he was at that. I want to say he was at the West Coast Radio, the West Coast Podcast Expo.
He probably was, because he was, like next door, right? He's on. Was that the one that they had on Logan Ave?
It was at the Music Box.
Oh, okay. So he might have been there. He might have spun there. But he's right there on Logan Ave, and so
it was somebody there with some vinyls, and then when they were saying they had a record store. So I don't know.
That was probably him. Yeah, most likely, because they're right down the street. The West Coast Radio TV, their actual studio is right there in Logan, and so I know they know Bernie, and they got a relationship, so that makes sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So I want to say thanks for coming through politicking with me.
Dude, thank you so much, Po. It's so good to talk to you in this context. Thanks a lot, man. Thanks for everything you do.
Yeah, no doubt, man. You got any shout outs?
Shout out to, San Diego hip hop. Shout out to Kali. That's my brother. We do a lot of stuff together. Super grateful for him. Shout out to Rick Scales, DJ Root. That's my family. Parker Edison, Kill C Ray over at Platform Collection. Much love, peace, love, and hip hop.
Yeah, I supposed to interview DJ Root. next week, I think.
Nice. Good. Yeah. Such a good dude. What a good, like, he's got a crazy story. And just a beautiful, shining example of what the community, you know, kind of embodies here in San Diego.
I like them plants, man.
Oh, thank you. Yep.
I'm a plant dad.
Yeah, oh, I'm with you. But I also heard you say on the last interview, no, you're a dad as well recently?
Yeah, I got two now, a boy and a girl, or a girl.
Congrats.
Yeah, they little, so they be keeping us busy right now.
How old?
A year and a half, and then 6 months.
Oh, very cool, man. Congrats. Yeah, I got a 6-year-old and a 9-year-old. So, and we're trying for one more. We're hoping for a girl.
That's what's up. Oh, yeah, you got 2 boys, huh?
Yeah. Yep.
Man, good luck, man.
Thank you.
I don't know what you got to do. What you supposed to do if you want a girl?
Man, I don't know. We're just trying one more time. And if it's a boy, we're going to love it. That's just the same, but we'll just see what.
Don't you got to look at the calendar when they say whatever day, like the Chinese calendar or something like that?
Based on all, we try all that, but based on all of that, you know, like, we're having a boy. So we're hoping it's wrong, but we'll see.
All right, man. Well, nice talking to you again, bro. What's your social media?
Just at Nate Whitsell. Yeah, you could, in my link in my bio has everything. It's a goofy picture in there right now, but like the link in my bio has everything SD State of Mind, hip hop weds, me, my music, you know, interviews that I've had in the past, things like that. So, and this interview will be in there too. So thank you so much for your time.
No doubt. We out, y'all.